What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are here at Hornets Nest Disc Golf Course in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're going to be talking about, in our first installment ever of Mid-Range Madness Mondays, we are talking about the Mid-Range, the Discraft Buzzz OS, and why I think this is an absolute lifesaver for some disc golfers, and for other disc golfers, they're not going to get along with it. Let's get into it. Buzzz OS is, well, Buzzz is one of the most classic mid-ranges you'll ever find out there, and OS generally for Discraft means overstable. Boasts numbers of 5403. Traditionally, this is a very popular style of disc, popular flight numbers. The most popular probably is the Rock 3 from Innova, also the same flight numbers, 5403, but the Rock 3 has a much different flight, or a slightly different profile. It's much more similar to this method that's in my right hand, where it has an actual bead on the bottom. This Buzzz OS doesn't have the bead, so a lot of people were saying it's not as overstable, or wasn't going to be as overstable. But I found, and it might have been just with the Z plastic, but I found that the glide should really not be a 4. This is the overstable approach disc, or the Berg of the mid-range Discraft lineup for me, at least as far as the ones that I've ever thrown. And as far as mid-ranges that I've thrown, this just, you have to throw it so hard to get it to go where you want it to go. This hole is 258 feet. Traditionally, I should be able to easily get a mid-range there on this forehand line, at least with a pyro. But this Buzzz OS just, it doesn't want to go anywhere. And I'm skipping up to short side of the circle, versus the disc that I would reach for in this situation that has slightly straighter fly numbers but the same amount of glide, the Pyro 5402.5. Okay, well, let's pick another glidier disc, but also more overstable disc. This Lux Vapor Mutant 5304. So essentially the glide and the fader flipped on this, so it shouldn't do what the Buzzz OS does, which is drop out of the sky. Or it should do that, and the Buzzz OS shouldn't do this. But this one kind of has more glide. Oh boy. Way more overstable, so it starts to fade a lot sooner, but it just doesn't have the want to stay in the air. These are both methods, 5503, and these like to stay in the air. You don't have to throw them as hard if you get a glidier disc. So where does that leave the Buzzz OS? The Buzzz OS is a great mid-range. It is very overstable, and in the month that I threw it for December, I came to understand that when I would reach for the Nord, essentially the Rock 3, the Buzzz OS wasn't going to do the same thing. The Buzzz OS is slightly more torque resistant, not quite as overstable or torque resistant as you might get from like a Swarm or Zone OS, but I also wouldn't classify it as torque resistant as a Pyro, because I can throw a Pyro just as hard as I can throw the Buzzz OS. The Pyro is going to hold the line. The Buzzz OS is going to flip up ever so slightly. This makes a lot of sense when on tour Aaron Gossage throws a Buzzz OS, and it's his most used mid-range, is because he has the power to get it there. I don't have the power to get it there, so I have to rely on touch and control and spin and glide to get a disc to go that far. I don't have the actual power. But what I found with this was I was actually throwing putters further than I was throwing the Buzzz OS, because this doesn't like to stay in the air. To get it to go that far, I have to put it way higher in the air. This hole is 321 feet. So backhand highs are around to the left. On the last hole, both methods outdrove the Buzzz OS by at least 10 feet. Let's see what they do here on a backhand throw. And then it just drops. It's so annoying. Versus the method that I love to throw. See how it glides left? Now let's look at the pyro. Watch how the pyro also glides left. Now it's a bit more of a drastic drop off, but it's still gliding. It's still staying in the air. What is going on with the Buzzz OS? And why can't I understand it? Why can't I figure it out? Is this the same reason I've been having trouble with the Buzzz for so many years? It's because it's more of a power thrower disc. I think that's what the Buzzz OS is. It's a mid-range designed more for power throwers than for smooth control touchy throwers. Because, I mean, one more throw, we're gonna throw the Mutant. This is gonna drop out and it's gonna look like the Buzzz OS. But I almost guarantee you this is gonna go as far as the Buzzz OS. Now if you hit a tree with it, let's go pick those up. Got a couple more drives I want to try with them. But for the most part, what I'm seeing from the Buzzz OS is that it needs at least 300 feet of power put into the disc at any given point in time, or else it just kind of drops. I could not control it on a slow controlled touchy throw. It would either sail way over the top or just drop out of the sky. You're not going to get that from a Rock 3 or most other overstable mid-ranges. You're going to get that from the Buzzz OS though. From the direction of the tube pad, here's the Buzzz OS. The method is absolutely parked right here. And that's the pyro right there. The pyro was hung wider out to the right, which is why I did that. And I've always said that the pyro should be a 5.5 speed. It's not really a 5 speed. It's a little bit sharper than most mid-ranges. But, I mean, 321 is about what I'm expecting out of mid-ranges. Maybe a little bit further, maybe a little bit shorter. And I absolutely parked it with the mid-range I'm used to throwing. So it makes a lot of sense that I'm used to the control and the glide of a gliding mid-range. But I threw the Buzzz OS really hard and it was still circle 2. When you're trying to get distance with an overstable disc, a lot of times you'll put it on anhyzer so that it can get some good flex, but that really only matters if it's gliding. Let's toss this Buzzz OS on an anhyzer and see what happens, and watch how it's similar to the Berg or similar to maybe a Rhino or something that's a very unglidey putter. And when you starts to flex out, it just kind of sits. You might get a little bit of playback this way, but for the most part, you're not getting that extra little glide and push that you get out of what I'm about to show you. See how it just drops. All right, now the pyro, the disc that I thought was going to be almost, that I was gonna be like, okay, good to have a Z Buzzz OS, it'll be a pyro. It's not. Even with the tree, it still wanted to push out of it. Now let's go for the method. So much lower, but the same distance. Why? Because the method wants to stay in the air and it wants to glide. The Buzzz OS wants to drop. So, Discraft, I've always had their flight numbers just have something weird going on with them, because sometimes they're more stable than they say, sometimes they're less stable than they say. This one, the glide is definitely off on the Buzzz OS. So Discraft, if you're watching, which you're probably not, let's fix the flight numbers on the Buzzz OS, or, hear me out, just get a Buzzz OS that glides. Is there a possibility of doing that? Because I'm willing to try it out, but right now, Buzzz OS is not where it's at for me. I'm not that much of a power thrower. I'm going to stick to my pyros and my methods. Might stick something overstable in the month of January. But for now, I don't think the Buzzz OS is it for me. Hopefully you enjoy content like this. If so, please make sure to like the video. If you want to see new stuff, make sure to comment all of that down below. And please make sure to subscribe. It helps you guys out with these subscriber-only giveaways. Definitely helps me out as well. And until next time, see you out on the course.